On my table I have the Simagic Haptic reactor kit. I have two of these reactors. Each one comes with a mounting plate, and I'll show you how that's used later in the video when I mount these to my pedals, plus a bag of accessories. So we have some screws, an Allen key, and also some clips for the cables. Now to go with that, we also need the controller box, which is this here. Also note, this is the same controller box used for their pedals. So on the left hand side, if I get the right angle, you can see clutch, brake and throttle. But we're interested in this arrangement of sockets, and this supports 3 haptic reactors. And there's the power input, and that's for the USB to your PC. And finally, we have this, which is their power supply, which is a 52 watt power supply. I don't have Simagic pedals, and I'll be mounting these to my Simpson Pro pedals. And to do that, I have 3D printed these brackets. I'll drop a link below the video to the Thingiverse page where I found these. If you take a closer look, I have inserted some nuts in there, which are required. And also you can see these brackets are different designs due to basically the pedals. So we do have a different bracket for each pedal. That'll be for the throttle, that's for the brake. Now before I mount these to my pedals, what we're going to do is take one of these apart and have a look inside. There are 2 software options to operate the hardware. Now the first one is simply the stock option, which is the Sim Pro Manager that comes from Simagic. So you just download that from their website. And to find the settings, we go over here, click on this little icon, and then go to the top and click on feedback. And we can see we have 3 boxes which represent the 3 pedals. So we have the clutch, that's the brake, and that's the throttle. And it already comes pre-configured with some basic settings for you. And you can see on the clutch, it has, I don't have obviously the clutch one here, so we can't really test it, but you can see there's some options here, and it is a highlighted clutch. You can change it around if you really want to, but as you can see, these are the defaults. In the middle is the brake, and that's ABS effect. And on the throttle, we have traction control. And it's also preset with the strength and also the frequency. Now if I click on vibrate, just listen to this, you can hear the tone. And if we go to the throttle, sort of a higher pitched tone since it's using a higher frequency. Now you're free to adjust any of this, so let's just whack up from 29% up to 100 and see what happens. Yeah, quite a difference. That's vibrating the table, so yeah. And if we change the frequency, let's just go up to 50 and see what happens. And then go down to 20, and there should be a dramatic difference. Yeah, they're shaking on the table, so that's pretty powerful. So you can make the changes on either of these. You can change the frequency and the strength, and you can also save presets, but let's just revert this back to the defaults. So what this demonstrates already is these are super powerful, and although you can run them at 100%, that will be too much, so you will certainly run them at some lower level. The software here, pretty basic, but it covers the essentials, let's say. The alternative software we can use is SimHub, and that does offer a lot more versatility on the effects being offered, so let's head over to that. In SimHub, go to the Shake It Motor section, which is just there, so click on that. Now when you first open this window, everything will be off, so you do need to turn on the haptic pedal reactor, which is done by clicking on this slider on the right. So if I turn it off, you can see it's deactivated, so just click it to turn it on. Next, we need to configure this further by clicking on this down arrow here. Now the first thing you can do here is test to see if SimHub is communicating with those reactors, and you can see test now under the brake and the throttle, so let's click on that. Okay, that's all working, so now we can draw our attention to this big list down here. Now when you start out, everything will be turned off, and you need to basically go down the list and actively turn on the effects that you want, simply by clicking on whatever you want. Now, as you can see, I've already configured a lot of this since I've been playing around with it already. But say you want to at least mirror the Simagic software effects, then you're looking for ABS and also traction control. The list on the left here is alphabetical, so very easy. So you can see ABS, and it's already turned on under the brake. So for traction control, we want to go down to the throttle column and then look for traction control and go right to the bottom, and it's here. So TC active, and you can see I've turned it on. We can also see I have some other effects I've turned on as well. So wheels lock, road rumble, and gear shift. We're not quite done yet. We need to go to the effects profile tab and click on that and turn on the effects that you want. Because if you don't turn them on here, then they won't actually end up in the game. So if you just do this, then try running the game, you're going to wonder why it's not working. You do need to go here as well and turn on the effects. And we can see you've got those sliders on there, so just click on those to turn them on. And here you can then actively change the intensity of the effect. You can see there's a little volume slider effectively. And also you can configure each effect a bit more precisely by clicking on the little down arrow, and there's some more options here for you to experiment with. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of this, since you're going to have to work this one out for yourself, since it's a little bit involved of simply getting on track, doing a few laps, alt-tabbing into SimHub, and then making a few adjustments. But you can obviously pause the screen and see what I've done here if you want to, but I'm not going to go through all of this, since this is a review, not a tutorial. Okay, well there you go, that should at least get you up and running. So let's move on to the track and do some testing. Let's kick this off, and my recommendation to use SimHub and skip SimPro Manager entirely. The Simagic software covers only ABS and traction control, which narrows the field down to only cars that have those onboard features. So outside of GT cars, the Reactors will do absolutely nothing for you. And frankly, this makes the product a waste of money if that's all they are good for. Fortunately, SimHub releases the full potential of these Simagic reactors, so that's the way forward. Also, let me add, I wouldn't bother about getting one of these for the clutch pedal. It's kind of pointless, but I figure you already worked that one out for yourself. The best way to describe these haptic reactors is consider them as personal butt kickers for your pedals. And internally, the design is not that dissimilar to how butt kickers work. A floating weight moved by an electromagnetic coil, the weight rapidly moves like a piston on steroids, and there's your tactile effect. And they are very effective at this job, and also low latency. As far as I can tell, they activate precisely when those tyres lock up, so they pass this test perfectly. In the footage just shown, the audio volume was raised significantly to make it clearer. You can even hear the squeak from the brake elastomers compressing. And that's something I've never noticed before, so that was not a demonstration of the noise output. We have that coming up in one moment. But do understand, anything that produces vibration, there's noise that comes with it. With my speakers running, I can hear them a little, but it's not really intrusive or distracting. You can raise the volume of the effects and the reactors will obviously produce more noise. However, maxing them out is not better. In the same way you don't run a high torque direct drive wheelbase at 100%, it passes a level of realism, and having your feet pounded by overly intense vibrations will distract you. The settings I have locked in here feel really nice, vibrant, clear and crisp, and no problem transmitting through the rubber soles of my shoes. Vibrations don't leak into the floor, so haptic reactors may be a better solution for some situations over a regular bass shaker setup. However, the tactile effect is isolated to the pedals, so you're not getting the same immersive all-round effect that full-fat bass shakers can offer. Being that the reactors are attached to individual pedals comes with its own advantage. The effects you assign to each pedal are only felt through that individual pedal. I can only feel the ABS effect through the brake pedal, and likewise the traction control effect is only present on the throttle pedal. This makes the feedback relatable to the driving experience. For the other effects being used, gear shift and road rumble, these are on both pedals. The physical sensation from the game is useful information that can improve your racecraft. Simagic may have been stingy with their software, providing only ABS and traction control, but the feedback from these onboard features is a useful tool. ABS and traction control are interventions from the car computer that take over to prevent loss of tyre traction. The strength of the vibrations you feel is directly linked to the activity of the ABS or traction control. For example, under heavy braking, the kick from the tactile feedback is stronger than when the ABS is only lightly engaged, and that's really helpful. It's almost like cheating. You can use this to improve your car control slowing into corners. If ABS is working too hard, the haptic reactors communicate this with a long duration and high intensity, and this informs me I need to think about braking a little earlier into that corner. If the car is being overdriven, that will cost me lap time, so using the pedal feedback and making adjustments gives me an advantage, and that will make me a better driver. So consider this a competitive driving aid and not just a feature for fun. To cover a question I know will be asked in the comments, how do these compare to rumble motors? The Simagic haptic reactors are the best option of the two. Rumble motors don't lack power but suffer from a slight delay and are louder compared to these haptic reactors. Haptic reactors also output vibrations with much finer and progressive detail, and that's really quite important for the ABS effect. Another option is the DIY build using sound exciters. It's cheap and works really well. The result is not worlds apart from using haptic reactors. Sound exciters are not as powerful, but certainly good enough for this job. I do have a video guide on this, so check that out. There's a link below to that. So that's a viable alternative I can recommend if you're on a budget. Any negatives regarding the Simagic haptic reactors? Well, they are not cheap, but I don't consider them overpriced for what they are. They pack a punch, producing a very good effect. The build quality is excellent. I don't have any concerns about their durability. Mounting them to my pedals required me to source an adapter. That's a minor negative, but really they are not designed for my pedals, so that's fair enough. And the good news is you can find 3D printed adapters for most pedal brands, so getting these hooked up shouldn't really be an issue for whatever pedal set you may have. Out of all the pedal mounted tactile gizmos I've used to date, the Simagic haptic reactors gets the #1 spot, which in reality makes sense. They are purpose built for this function, they're compact, look great, and provide stellar performance. And that's my verdict. I hope you found this review helpful, thanks for watching, and until next time, happy simming and bye bye.